The trailing suction hopper dredge B.E. Lindholm is dredging between the jetties at South Padre Island and transporting the material to the north end of the city for the beach Renourishment project. The Lindholm is owned by Weeks Marine of Cranford, New Jersey. The Lindholm is under contract with the United States Army Corps of Engineers in conjunction with the city of South Padre Island, the Texas General Land Office in Cameron County. It's estimated that 360,000 cubic yards of material will need to be dredged. 75% of the material will be placed at the northern end of the city limits, and 25% of the material will be placed at Isla Blanca Park. The B.E. Lindholm is what's known as a trailing suction hopper dredge. It is self-loading and unloading and sometimes equipped with a pressurized discharging system. The yellow outriggers on the stern on each side of the ship are the supports for the suction pipes, as shown in the photo above. On the end of a pipe, a so-called trailing drag head is connected. The head is comparable to a large vacuum cleaner and is trailed along the seabed. In the head, there are nozzles connected to a high-pressure water system that is capable of loosening the material on the seabed, and the material is sucked to the surface and stored in the hopper. The excess water, as you can see here, it flows back over the side as the material settles to the bottom of the hopper. B.E. Lindholm was built at the Twin City Shipyard in St. Paul, Minnesota in 1985. From 1985 to 1998, it was called the Washita, and it was owned by the Gulf Coast Trailing Company. In 1998, Weeks Marine purchased the Washita and renamed it the B.E. Lindholm. It is 298 feet long, width is 55 feet, and the loaded draft is 22 feet. The hopper is capable of holding up to 4,000 cubic yards, and the dredging depth is 65 feet. The suction pipe diameter is 2 feet 4 inches. After the hopper is fully loaded, they exit out through the end of the jetties, and they go north 5.25 miles to where they tie into the end of the discharge pipe that is anchored 3/4 mile offshore. Weeks Marine was founded by Francis H. and Richard B. Weeks in 1919 as the Weeks Stevedoring Company. The company started with 2 floating cranes in the port of New York handling bunker coal and dry ballast. By World War II, the company had expanded with 7 cranes in its fleet. Due in part to the workload of the war effort, modernization of the fleet began as the crane's original wooden hulls were replaced with durable steel. Starting in the 1950s, the Weeks expanded their company into marine projects outside stevedoring. They began performing salvage, dredging, and construction work and installing navigational aids for the United States Coast Guard. The company also became the prime contractor assigned to remove abandoned piers and vessels for the Army Corps of Engineers, work that continues today. The 1960s was a period of firsts in terms of equipment, with the purchase of Weeks' first crane to be used outside of stevedoring, its first vessels, and first dump scow. Over the next 10 years, the Weeks barge fleet grew proportionately, creating the infrastructure for current operations. During the 1970s, the first dredge, the first large tug, and 500 pieces of floating equipment were purchased to broaden the company even further. We've arrived at the offshore connection point for the discharge pipe, which is 3/4 mile offshore from Andy Buoy Park. The rigging crew is on the bow of the Lindholm, preparing to rig up the pulling cable to pick up the end of the discharge pipe and connect it to the vessel's pumping system. After the connection is made, they will begin pumping the material ashore. They are currently pumping just over a mile. This discharge is beachside of the Tiki condominiums. As they continue to pull in the discharge pipe, I'd like to talk about the 1980s and 1990s, which represented a period of marked growth by Weeks, primarily through the acquisition of other marine companies throughout the United States. Acquisitions included M.P. Howlett, 1983, Healy Tibbetts Builders, 1989, American Dredging Company, 1993, and the T.L. James Company in 1998. It was also during this time that Weeks Stevedoring Company officially became Weeks Marine Incorporated. The discharge piping is now connected. They will begin pumping operations through the mile-long pipeline to the current location at the Tiki condominiums. We're going to make a high-speed flight down the pipeline till we reach where the pipeline comes ashore. The pipeline's marked with this series of buoys. They're using this dozer as a thrust block. There's a tremendous amount of force when you're trying to pump sand around a 90-degree turn in a pipeline. Now we're going to follow the pipeline down the beach past the Hilton Garden Inn, La Quinta Inn, Clayton's, past the Courtyard by Marriott, and down to where the pipeline currently terminates in front of the Tiki condominiums. Just past the end of Clayton's Pier, they've got a Y fitting. They're splitting the pipe off into two separate pipelines. It appears that they're doing this to help spread the sand, and they don't have to move it so much with the earth-moving equipment. They've got several pieces of earth-moving equipment down there to distribute the sand and spread it around the beach. The sand is wet, but it's not yet hard packed. If you look off here to the left of the screen, this guy stuck his all-terrain vehicle in some soft sand, so this dozer's going over there to pull him out. If you look to the left of the dozer, you can see where the existing shoreline was before they started spreading sand. This concludes this segment of the South Padre Island Beach Renourishment Project.